Hello everyone. This is Adam with psychedelicinvest.com. In today's episode of Weekly Extractions, I'm going to be digging into some of the highlights coming out of the psychedelic sector this week. And trust me when I say this, there are some juicy things to talk about, specifically related to Mindmed. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into things. Okay, and up next we have Compass Pathways sued for alleged theft of psilocybin trade secrets. That sounds like a juicy clickbaity headline, but the question is this lawsuit actually going to have any teeth? And if I had to bet, I would say I just don't feel like it will. Let me go on to read this for you guys. So basically, Terran, a private biotech platform company, filed a complaint against Compass last Friday. Okay. So basically, they filed a complaint saying that Compass stole trade secrets from them. So the trade secrets involve the treatment of depression and other mental health conditions with a combination of psilocybin and a 5-HT2A antagonist. That has been patented by Compass, yet was allegedly stolen from Scott Thompson, a researcher at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. So, according to Terran Bioscience's statement, Thompson had been working first on the idea of co-administration of psilocybin with a 5-HT2A antagonist as a potential rapid non-hallucinogenic antidepressant therapy since 2016. The suit lays out the chronology as follows. Thompson kept his research confidential until he started filing patent application, disclosing and claiming certain of his then trade secret inventions. In August 2019, as Terran claims, he never disclosed it outside of the scope of a confidentiality / non-disclosure agreement. So it goes on to say Compass reached out to Thompson in May 2019, and the two parties entered a mutual NDA, after which Thompson engaged in numerous substantive discussions and negotiations with the biotech company regarding a potential partnership. So Compass repeatedly emphasized its excitement over that possibility, which would have led Thompson to disclose psilocybin trade secrets in confidence. After that, Compass misappropriated that psilocybin trade secret for itself, secretly filing its own patent application covering the specific co-administration as conceived by the researcher, according to the plaintiff. In November 2019, Compass abruptly ended negotiations with Thompson and UMB, saying that it would not enter into a collaboration agreement for psilocybin research with them. Terran therefore concluded that Compass misappropriated and continued to misappropriate the psilocybin trade secrets for its own games. So that was a mouthful, but to get into it is this: we'll see how Thompson is going to go about proving this. So this. In regards to Compass, this definitely rubs me the wrong way, because I hate to hear these stories of how these corporations and big companies are taking advantage of the smaller guy in regards to if this is true, stealing these secrets and going behind his back and patenting them. It's just it's kind of scandalous, and it's in bad taste. And the reality is, all over tech, you're going to see companies doing this to smaller companies. It's very, very common. So this isn't biotech, but Google does this a lot. Google will essentially infringe on patents and then drag companies through court, and basically force them into bankruptcy through the litigation. And that's essentially how things work out. So in regards to Compass, we'll see how things unfold, but optically, this isn't great. And my heart goes out to Thompson if this is true, because you never want to see a smaller company getting walked all over by a bigger company. But I'm going to refrain from any opinion on this yet, and we'll see what Compass's response to this is. But just in general right now, this isn't ideal, and we'll see how things play out. But I hate to see these bigger companies walking all over the smaller ones. It's just gross. So like I said, let's wait to hear what Compass's response is. I don't want to pile onto them too hard just yet. All right, and up next we have Cybin announces up to a $35 million at the market equity program. So just like I said in in one of my Mindmed videos before, this is no reason to panic if you are a Cybin investor. This gives Cybin the ability to generate funds if they need to at some point in the future. It doesn't mean they're doing it right now. It's basically just giving them permission to do so. So for a small biotech company like Cybin, I think this is essential. The reality is they have a decent cash runway, but they're more than likely going to have to raise more cash in the future if they don't end up getting acquired or merging with a different company. So there's been a lot of talk about this in regards to Cybin. Some people in the community have been talking about them and Mindmed possibly merging. Who knows how it's going to happen? I think that Cybin does have some interesting intellectual property, so I do see them getting acquired at some point, but who knows who it's going to be. But in regards specifically to this at the market offering, not a red flag, not no reason to panic for Cybin investors. This is just giving Cybin permission to essentially raise funds at some point down the line if they need to, or if they see the opportunity. So, for example, if they see that their stock price is going up, let's say 15 to 20% at some point, and they're like, hey, this is a good opportunity for us to raise some funds, they're most likely going to do that. And yeah, that's just how it works. But this is very normal in biotech. Companies will have to have these at the market offerings to raise funds, to keep the doors open, to keep paying their employees. So if you like the work that Cybin is doing, I would not panic, and I would not, this is just wouldn't be a big deal to me at all. And I think Cybin's doing a fine job right now. So this doesn't bother me in the slightest. So we have Mydecin Innovations Group announces the resignation of directors. So four Mydecin directors resigned on the same day today. So this is a big deal no matter how you want to cut the cake, because whenever you have four directors resign on the same day, it means something is going on in the background. We're just going to have to figure out what it is. So Mydecin said the departures are part of a larger organizational shift that will allow the corporation to concentrate on its core competencies with more efficiency. So this is the typical vanilla PR that's going to come out of these biotech companies that honestly it means nothing, because it's like, okay, now you guys can focus more on your core. Why weren't you guys focusing on this the whole time? But the reality is like, you're not going to get much from the company right now. So I guess for the people assessing Mydecin and the people currently invested in Mydecin, this is how I would present things. If you've been happy with the way things are going, so ask yourself why this is happening. All right. If you haven't been happy with the way things are going with Mydecin, and I think this is where most of the people are going to fall into this category. If you've been essentially what's going on with Mydecin, the share price has taken a huge beating and hasn't really recovered much over time. Who's running the show here? What are you guys doing to forward the company? If that's the opinion you're taking, then it could be that Mydecin has diagnosed the problem here, and this is the steps that they're taking to fix something, to fix the issue, the symptoms here. I don't know. Listen, Mydecin is not one of the psychedelic companies I follow that closely. But this is just where my head would go at in terms of when I'm assessing this news. It's basically, is there something brewing on in the background here? Is there maybe possibly a merger acquisition kind of that might happen? Or it's essentially, could it be that they needed to essentially shake things up a bit so they can refocus on what they need to refocus on? Regardless of that, it's never great to hear that four directors are leaving at the same time. But in regards to like being optimistic, hopefully this allows Mydecin to focus and move forward in a way that rewards the current investors there, because they're the ones who are really going to suffer here. It's not really Mydecin. It's the people in Mydecin are getting paid. Like, they're not, it's the people who invested in Mydecin who are losing all this money over time because Mydecin hasn't been able to deliver, or they've been slow to deliver. So that would be my perspective, is basically, what is Mydecin going to do now to protect the investors who are invested in Mydecin? So I'll wait to hear more from Mydecin's camp. Feel free to reach out to me if you're watching this and you're associated with Mydecin in any way. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. And yeah, that's where I'll leave that. All right, and the last two pieces of news we have, they're both going to have to do with Mindmed. So, Mindmed has been making a lot of headlines this month, this week. Um and to say that it's just that it seems like things are getting kind of messy on Mind Medicine's side right now, and it's not the best in terms of the way I'm seeing these things. This is not ideal for Mindmed and Mindmed investors. So like I had mentioned this already when I talked about Mindmed in my last video, but this is definitely like we're entering a territory here where where you have to start thinking critically about your investment in Mindmed and what Mindmed is doing as a company. Because all right, so let me get into this. So Mindmed shelves 18-MC MM-110 drug development program in response to FDA's requiring further preclinical data in order to proceed to phase 2A. Mindmed has mothballed its potential opioid use disorder treatment. So they're going to redistribute their resources to MM-120 and MM-402. So I'm not thrilled about this. I think 18MC was one of the more promising things that Mindmed had in their pipeline. So it's definitely not encouraging to see them dropping this to focus on MM-120 and MM-402, especially given all the news that's been coming out about Mindmed recently in regards to the reverse split that they just announced. Which once again, I mentioned it to you guys, and I know a lot of you guys in the Mindmed community are saying this can be good. This can be good. When we've read articles about research done on biotech companies that have reverse split, some of them have actually managed to not only recover but thrive post reverse split. And I think it's great to frame things in a positive perspective. But if you want to be the best investor possible, you have to look at things more critically. You have to look at things and not in terms of the most optimistic way possible. You have to look at them from a worst case scenario. That way you can prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. Obviously, you want things to go well for Mindmed. I want Mindmed to thrive after the reverse split. But given the news that's been coming out of Mindmed's camp lately, which is starting with the reverse split, honestly, we can go all the way back to when J.R. Rand was ousted as the CEO. All from that all the way leading till today, and I'll build upon this with the next piece of news I read as well, is like, what has Mindmed been making all the right moves to protect their investors since then? And like, my answer would be no. I don't see them protecting the investors. I just don't see that. And like, I'm not trying to rub you Mindmed investors the wrong way. I'm really not. I'm just trying to be a voice of reason in some capacity, because I don't want anyone to get burns from this. So what I would say here in regards to in regards to everything is has Mindmed been making all the right moves since they replaced their CEO? Has everything they've been doing lined up with what's best for the Mindmed investors? If I had to give an answer, I would say I don't think so. And now leading up till today, where we get the news that Mindmed is shelving 18MC, I don't think that that's the best move. I understand it's to reallocate the funding and I guess be more intentional and efficient with their funding. But the reality is like, now you're taking a look at Mindmed's pipeline, and it's like, what do they have really going on right now? So I would want Mindmed investors to really take a critical look at Mindmed right now, and like, take those bullish glasses off for 5 seconds. You have to look at this company critically, because this is how you're going to make money. Protect yourself first. Protect yourself first. And that means make sure the company's doing everything in the best interest of the investor. And if they aren't, then reassess. So, sorry for that long rant, but it's basically like, I'm not stoked on this at all. I like I said, I thought 18MC was one of the more promising things in Mindmed's pipeline. This continues to be more red flags that are coming out of Mindmed's camp in regards to what is going on with the company. And I just really, really hope that Mindmed comes out with some strong, I guess, guidance for like what they're planning to do, what's the path forward. Like Mindmed needs to tell their investors what's going on, what we're going to focus on in the path forward, and like make things very clear to them, because right now I feel like a lot of them are very, very worried. And now to the next piece of Mindmed news. So, former Mindmed chief medical officer calls for drastic changes at Mindmed. Scott Freeman claimed their value enhancement plan would cut cash burn from 45 million to 25 million a year, but not without sacrifice. Plan would slash the company's development pipeline and staff. So once again, this is just adding to all the bearish momentum around Mindmed right now. So I actually reached out to the Scott Freeman and Jake Freeman, and I spoke to them on the phone, and I'm actually going to be doing some video content with them for next week. So stay tuned for that, guys. But essentially, they were the original owners of Mindmed. Mindmed was called a different company beforehand, and they sold Mindmed to J.R. Rand and Mindmed. But at some point, and they retained, I want to say, 5.6% of the company. So essentially, they're basically looking at the performance of Mindmed, and they're like, what is going on with this company? We've been seeing our 5.6% ownership stake in this company. The value of it has been deteriorating and hemorrhaging over time. So I understand why they're sounding the alarm. They're just basically like, it hurts for anyone as retail investors, as bigger companies who are investing in other companies. Nobody wants to lose a significant amount of money. It applies to everyone. So I can understand why they're slightly perturbed at what's been going on with Mindmed lately. And hopefully they'll be able to get some answers and clarity moving forward. But they have a plan. So Scott Freeman and Jake Freeman and their company, they have a plan, and they've presented it to Mindmed. We'll see how things go. So they were the chief medical officer for Mindmed at one point, and also the company that it was called beforehand. I can't remember that off the top of my head. But it's just going to be interesting how this works out. So here, Psychedelic Alpha actually laid out the plan down here. So he said they scrapped the public offering, slimmed down pipeline to focus on 18MC and LSD, slash executive compensation, ditch digital health company Health Mode, and reappoint Scott Freeman as chief medical officer for Mindmed. So like this, so I don't really know Scott Freeman that well, so I can't vouch for him as being reappointed yet. But I will say, in terms of the other things that they're mentioning here, scrapping the public offering, I feel like that's just optically going to look good and make investors feel better. But the reality is like when you have these public offerings, it's all these biotech companies need to survive. So if they're running out of cash, that's going to be how they do it. But I understand the perspective behind that. So now, slimming down the pipeline to focus on 18MC and just LSD. I like that. I don't understand why they stopped focusing on 18MC, or I guess I understand why they stopped focusing on ATMC. But from my perspective, Mindmed cannot be wholly married to LSD, because at the end of the day, they don't even have LSD patented. So it's like, and no one's patenting LSD. So it's like Mindmed's going to need to figure out a pathway to profitability. And they're going to need to lay that out for investors. Slashing the executive compensation. So that I can wholly get on board with. If your executives are getting paid an arm and a leg to run this biotech company, whatever it takes to run these biotech companies, I don't know the day-to-day of these CEOs. But if the executives are getting compensated handsomely at the cost of the value for shareholders, that's a big problem. If I'm invested in a company that's not generating profits and the CEO of that company is getting paid $1 million a year, that's not going to sit right with me. It's like, start generating profits, start showing that you can generate revenue and stuff like that before you start collecting the big money for yourself. It's like, that's how I look at things. So it's like, I don't know exactly how much the executives are getting compensated. So this is just me giving you guys my perspective while just reading this. But like, that's what I want to know is like, how much are these executives getting compensated? Does it make sense given the company isn't profitable at all? So yeah, I'd want to hear more about that. Ditching the digital health company health mode. So I remember when Mindmed made this acquisition. So I'm not privy to the inner workings of health mode. I haven't done a lot of research on health mode in general, so I don't know what they have going on. But the reality is, if health mode isn't doing much right now, it would make sense to kind of put it on pause until Mindmed is ready to pursue more digital health opportunities. Um, so like all of the plan that the Freemans have laid out is lucid. It doesn't sound crazy by any means. It just sounds like it sounds like a company that's trying to protect the value of another company that they have a ownership stake in. Um, and that makes sense. And I feel like a lot of you guys should actually be getting behind what the Freemans are doing, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to protect the stock price and the value of the company, just like anyone invested in Mindmed wants. So I would just think twice um, before being overly critical of them, because at the end of the day, they want the same thing as most retail investors in Mindmed. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. That was a long one today. But that was pretty exciting to cover. There's been a lot of developments within the psychedelic sector within the last month, and the way I'm forecasting things right now, there's gonna be a lot of juicy stuff uh, incoming in the next couple of months. So I'm really, really excited for this. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Weekly Extractions. I love making these videos for you guys. I love interacting with the community. Feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to chat about psychedelics. If you ever just want to talk about investing in psychedelics, anything in those two areas, I'm happy to talk about with you guys at any point in time. My name on Instagram and Reddit is Waxing Eloquence, WAXINGELOQUENCE. You can find me on there. I'm in the Discord chats all the time. Psychedelic Invest has our own Discord chat where you can get access. I'm in there 24/7 if you guys ever want to chat. We have it linked in a bunch of different places, but I'll make sure to also include a link to the Discord in the description of this video as well. So thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. I appreciate each and every one of you, and have a phenomenal, phenomenal weekend.